29 criminal judges walk into a room. Real judges, an average of 15 years on the bench. They're handed a real case file, the kind they have ruled on 100 times before. And then the researchers hand them a pair of dice. They tell the judges, roll. Whatever number comes up, that's the prosecutor's sentencing demand. The judges know it's random. They watched it happen. They rolled the dice with their own hands. The judges who rolled low recommended a sentence of about 5 months. The judges who rolled high recommended about 8. Same case, same crime, same evidence, different dice. Now think about that. If a 15-year veteran of the criminal bench, a person professionally trained to ignore irrelevant information, whose entire job is judgment, can add 3 months to a human being's life because of a number they know they invented by accident, what do you think a price tag is doing to you? And I want to be straight with you before we go any further. Everything I'm about to show you, the studies, the experiments, the famous names, some of it is fake. Not wrong, fake, fabricated, retracted. The most celebrated experiment in this entire field turned out to contain invented data, and the story of how that came out is one of the strangest things I have ever read. We are going to get there, but it changes everything, so hold on to it. Because first, I need you to understand what those dice actually did. An anchor doesn't change your mind. That's the myth. It's much creepier than that. An anchor changes which thoughts arrive. A high number quietly makes incriminating facts easier to recall. The evidence for severity gets louder. The evidence against it goes quiet. You don't feel persuaded. You feel like you're thinking clearly. That's the trick. Manipulation that actually works doesn't feel like manipulation. It feels like your own opinion, showing up on time. 1998. 3 supermarkets in Iowa. A display of Campbell's soup, 79 cents a can. With no sign, shoppers bought an average of 3.3 cans. Then researchers added 1 piece of cardboard. 4 words. Limit 12 per person. Average purchase, 7 cans. More than double. Nobody was ever going to buy 12. The limit was never real. The number was the product. And that number is everywhere now. It's the crossed-out price you never had a chance of paying. It's the $4.99, now $1.99. It's the compare at column. It's the enterprise tier that exists for one reason only, so the middle tier looks reasonable. That soup study is one of the most cited results in the history of consumer psychology. Its lead author doesn't work at Cornell anymore. We'll come back to why. 1975. 2 glass jars, identical cookies. One jar has 10 cookies in it. One jar has 2. People taste from one jar and rate what they taste. The 2-cookie jar wins. Same cookie, same recipe, same room. Rated better, purely because there was less of it. That's the study everyone quotes. Here's the part almost nobody quotes. The researchers ran a third version. The jar starts full, 10 cookies, and then, while the participant is sitting right there watching, someone walks in and takes 8 of them away. Those cookies rated highest of all. Let that land. Scarcity you're told about is worth something. Scarcity you watch happen is worth more. Your brain isn't tracking supply, it's tracking loss in progress. Which is why the most effective sentence on any booking site in the world isn't limited availability. It's 3 other people are looking at this room right now. That's not a stock warning. That's 8 cookies being lifted out of the jar while you watch. And it's stacked on top of something older and dumber and far harder to fight. Your ancestors did not have time to individually verify threats. If the group ran, you ran. The ones who stopped to gather evidence were removed from the gene pool with impressive efficiency. So the crowd became a shortcut for truth. Many people are doing this, got hardwired into your skull as, this is probably safe and probably correct. That instinct kept your bloodline alive for 200,000 years. And then, about 15 years ago, We handed the ability to simulate a crowd to anyone with a budget. Bot farms, bot reviews, engagement pods. A view counter isn't a measurement anymore. It's an argument. And you were built to lose that argument. Now, countdown timers, fake urgency, only 2 left. You already know about those. Some of them are literally reset by a cookie in your browser. Refresh the page, and the last chance is politely reborn. But honestly, countdown timers are amateur hour. The really sophisticated machine doesn't have a clock at all. It has no ending.
In 2006, a young interface designer was annoyed. He was at the bottom of a page of search results, and to see more, he had to click a little number. Next page. To him, that was a failure. A well-designed thing shouldn't make you ask permission to keep going. His philosophy was simple: never force a user to make a choice they don't care about. So he wrote something that just kept loading. No pages, no numbers, no bottom. His name is Asa Raskin. He invented infinite scroll. He did it to be kind. Here's what he didn't understand at the time. And he has said this publicly, repeatedly, including under oath in court. He hadn't removed a click. He'd removed a stopping cue. A stopping cue is the tiny signal in your environment that hands your conscious mind the wheel for 1 second and asks, "Do you want to keep going?" The bottom of a page is a stopping cue. The end of an episode. The last chip in the bag. The bottom of the glass. It isn't a wall. It's a doorway. It's the place where the decision becomes yours again. Infinite scroll deletes the doorway. There is no bottom, which means there is never a moment where your brain is handed the wheel. You are not choosing to keep scrolling. You are simply never being asked to stop. Raskin has done the arithmetic on what he built. Multiply the hours across the whole planet. His estimate is on the order of 500,000 human lifetimes, burned every single month, scrolling. Not lost hours, not lost days, lifetimes, every month. He now runs an organization dedicated to undoing his own work. He has testified against the companies that use it. He calls it a mistake. But I want you to hold on to one word here because the entire video turns on it. Accident. Infinite scroll was an accident. Raskin was trying to help. He got it catastrophically wrong, and he owns it. Now let me show you what it looks like when it is not an accident. When it's designed, budgeted, a /B tested, named after a war. Somewhere inside Amazon, someone had to build the page where you cancel Prime, and they gave that project a code name. They called it the Iliad Flow. The Iliad, Homer, the poem about the siege of Troy, a siege that lasted 10 years. This is not my interpretation. That name came out of Amazon's own internal documents in a federal lawsuit brought by the Federal Trade Commission. And here's what regulators said the Iliad Flow actually was: 4 pages, 6 clicks, 15 different options, every one of them a chance to get lost. Discount offers, reminders of what you'd be giving up, a button to pause instead of cancel, a button to turn off auto-renew instead of cancel. Anything. Anything except the door. And it worked. After Amazon rolled it out in 2017, successful cancellations fell by around 14%. 14% of people who woke up that day intending to cancel a subscription didn't. Not because they changed their minds, because they got tired. There's a technique buried in here with a name. Designers call it confirm shaming. It's when the no button is written to make you feel like a bad person for pressing it. You've felt it before, even if you've never had a word for it. Amazon's decline button did not say, "No thanks." It said, in effect, "No, I don't want free shipping." You're not being asked to decline a subscription. You're being asked to declare out loud in writing that you are the kind of idiot who rejects free things. And they knew. Internal messages that surfaced in the case described this corner of the business, in employees' own words, as a bit of a shady world. Unwanted subscriptions were described internally as an unspoken cancer. According to the FTC's trial team, the pattern was brutally simple. Whenever Amazon made canceling easier, signups went down, so they put it back. September 2025. 3 days into the trial, Amazon settles. $2.5 billion. $1 billion of that is a civil penalty, the largest the FTC has ever obtained for a rule violation. The other $1.5 billion goes back to roughly 35 million people, up to $51 each. Now stop, because I need you to see what just happened here. For 100 years, if you wanted to know whether human beings could be manipulated, you had to ask a psychologist. And you got 20 undergraduates in a basement, a jar of cookies, and a p-value. That era is over. The best behavioral experiment of the last decade was not run in a university. It was run on 35 million people with real money over 8 years by people who measured precisely how many of us would give up on canceling if you added just one more page. And we only know the results because a court pried them out. Which brings me to the problem. Everything I've told you so far, the judges, the dice, the soup, the cookies, comes from academic psychology. And academic psychology, over the last 5 years, has been quietly falling apart.
The soup study? Its author was found guilty of academic misconduct. And the single most famous experiment about honesty in the history of the field was built on fabricated data. Twice, by 2 different people. 2012. A paper is published in one of the most prestigious scientific journals on Earth. The finding is beautiful, simple enough to fit on a napkin. If you make people sign the honesty declaration at the top of a form instead of the bottom, before they fill it in rather than after, they lie less. Because you make ethics feel present before the temptation, not after it. It's irresistible. Governments adopt it. Insurance companies redesign their forms. Tax authorities take it seriously. It becomes a cornerstone of the entire nudge movement. The idea that a tiny design tweak can make a whole society more honest. The star author is one of the most famous behavioral scientists alive. Best-selling books, a TED Talk with millions of views. In the public mind, he is the guy who explains why you're irrational. In 2021, 3 researchers running a blog decide to look at the raw data, and the data is wrong. Not sloppy, not noisy, impossible. 2 halves of the dataset are similar in a way that random human behavior simply does not produce. So they simulate the experiment. Not once, 1 million times. In 1 million simulated universes, the pattern sitting in that spreadsheet appears 0 times. Their conclusion, in their own words, the data are impossibly similar. The paper is retracted. All of the authors deny fabricating anything. The star author says the data came from an insurance company. 2 years later, the insurance company says, the data we handed over had been substantially altered after it left us. But that's not the story. This is the story. In June 2023, the same blog goes back to that same paper and looks at a different study inside it. A completely separate experiment, different data, a different lead researcher. That one was faked too. 2 separate acts of data fabrication by 2 apparently unconnected people in one paper, a paper about dishonesty. You could not write this. If you put it in a screenplay, an editor would cut it for being too on the nose. And I want to be careful here, because these are real people with real careers. Nobody has admitted to fabricating anything. Both of the leading figures deny wrongdoing. One of them has sued her university and the bloggers who accused her. But the retractions are real, and they are not alone. That soup study, limit 12 per person, its author was found by Cornell to have committed academic misconduct, misreported data, problematic statistics, results that could not be produced when somebody asked for them. 18 of his papers have been retracted. So here's where you should be sitting right now. The field that spent 20 years telling you your mind is a machine full of exploitable bugs was itself running on corrupted data. And if you want to quit this video and go be a cheerful skeptic about the whole thing, this is the exit. It's right here. Take it. But I'm not going to take it. And here's why. Because the fraud didn't destroy the field. It filtered it. Watch what survived. The judges and the dice? Replicated. Repeatedly. Anchoring is one of the most robust findings in the entire history of psychology. The Iliad Flow? That isn't a study. That's discovery. That is a corporation's own engineers in their own emails measuring their own manipulation and finding it profitable. There is no replication crisis in a subpoena. And then there's one more. One effect that has been tested, attacked, and retested with tighter and tighter methods, and it has refused to die. It's the quietest one on the list. It's in this video right now, working on you. And it is the single most disturbing finding in modern psychology, because it's the one that proves everything I've told you for the last 17 minutes will not save you. Let me just tell you the name of a scientific paper. That's it. Just the title. The title is the whole horror story. Knowledge does not protect against illusory truth. The illusory truth effect is this. Repeat a statement and people start to believe it. That's it. Not argue it, not prove it, just say it again. We've known this since 1977, and for 40 years, the assumption was obvious. Sure, that works on people who don't know any better. It's a gap filler. It exploits ignorance. It can't touch you if you already know the answer. Then, in 2015, researchers tested that assumption directly. They took statements that people demonstrably knew were false, not obscure trivia, things sitting right there in your head. Try this one. The Atlantic Ocean is the largest ocean on Earth. You know it's the Pacific. You've known since you were 9 years old. There is no gap in your knowledge to exploit. Repeat it to those people anyway, and their belief in it goes up. Knowing the truth did not protect them. The researchers had a name for it. Knowledge neglect. The fact is in there. Your brain just doesn't reach for it. Here's why. And it's the most elegant, horrible little design flaw in the human head. Repetition doesn't make a statement feel proven. It makes it feel easy. A sentence you've heard before takes less effort to process. It slides in, and your brain, running fast, running cheap, making 10,000 of these calls a day, uses ease of processing as a stand-in for truth. Something familiar feels true, because for almost all of human history, familiar things were true. You'd heard it before because it kept being right. That shortcut was excellent for 200,000 years, and it has been catastrophic for about 15. And this effect is armored. Researchers have tried to break it, warn people in advance that they're about to see false statements. Still works. Wait months between exposures. Still works. Tell people, explicitly, that the source is unreliable. Still works. Test only highly intelligent, highly analytical people. Still works. It doesn't care how smart you are. It's not a bug in stupid people. It's firmware in all of us. So think about what a recommendation algorithm actually is. It's not a persuasion machine. It's much simpler than that, and much more effective. It's a repetition machine. It never has to convince you of anything. It just has to show you the same idea from 40 different accounts in slightly different words for 11 months. And your brain, which cannot tell the difference between "I have verified this" and "this is easy to think," quietly files it under true. Not true because you checked. true because it was smooth. Which means the thing you clicked this video hoping for, the belief that if you just understood the tricks you'd be immune, is the one thing the evidence says is false. Awareness is not armor. So what is? Because there is an answer. It's just not the one you want. It's smaller and stranger, and it's the only thing that has ever actually worked in the lab. Every single one of these tricks, from the dice to the Iliad, depends on one shared vulnerability. It isn't stupidity. It isn't ignorance. It's speed. Anchoring works because you decide fast. Scarcity works because you decide fast. Infinite scroll works because you never stop long enough to decide at all. Confirm shaming works because you're already 3 clicks deep and tired. And illusory truth works because fluency is, quite literally, the feeling of thinking quickly. Manipulation is not an attack on your intelligence. It's an attack on your latency. So the defense isn't knowledge. It's friction. It's deliberately putting the doorway back. 1. Bring your own number. Buried in that same soup research is a finding almost nobody quotes. People who worked out their own number before they looked at the display were far more resistant to the anchor. So decide what a thing is worth to you before you ever see the price. The first number always wins. Make sure it's yours. 2. Never decide inside the interface. The screen you're looking at was designed, tested, and optimized to produce one specific decision. It is home turf. Make the actual choice somewhere else. In a notes app, out loud, on a walk, anywhere that isn't the arena. 3. If canceling is harder than joining, you have already been told everything you need to know. That asymmetry is a confession. A company that respects your decision makes leaving as easy as arriving. A company that has built itself an Iliad has told you, in writing, exactly what it thinks of you. 4. Add 24 hours to anything with a countdown on it. Urgency is the one trick that cannot survive delay. That is its entire weakness. A genuinely good deal is still a good deal tomorrow. A trap is not. Let the timer run out. See how you feel. Almost nothing you ever lose this way will actually be missed. And look, at the start of this video, I showed you a hand pulling a single thread out of a brain. I want to be honest with you about what that image means. It isn't a warning about some future dystopia. Every trigger in this video is already running. It ran on you today. It ran on you while you were watching this, because I used structure and curiosity gaps and open loops, and I told you a story about dice instead of just telling you what anchoring is. That is the same toolkit. The only difference between me and the Iliad Flow is what I'm asking you to do at the end of it. You will never be immune. That's not on the menu. There's no version of you that reads enough studies and becomes bulletproof, because the flaw was never in your knowledge. It's in your speed. But you can be slow. And in a world engineered end to end to make you decide right now, being slow is not a weakness. It's the last thing you actually own. So here's one experiment. Just one. Before you close this tab, go and cancel a single subscription you've been meaning to cancel. Any one of them. And count the clicks. Then come back and put that number in the comments, because I want to see it. I want to see who's built an Iliad and who hasn't. We can build that list ourselves. And if you want to keep pulling on this thread, the next one goes deeper. Because everything we covered today was about what companies do to you on purpose. The next video is about what your own brain does to you for free. The signals it's been sending you your whole life that you have never once noticed. It's on the screen now. Go slow. I'll see you there.